Hello, I'm Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones. I'm Professor of Ancient History at Cardiff University, and I specialise in ancient Persia and the relationship that ancient Persia had with its empire, in particular the ancient Greeks. And what we've got here is a case, as part of the Luxury to Power exhibition, which concentrates on Persian dress. Now, why dress? Well, dress was a very important way in which the Persians articulated their idea of self, what it was like to be a Persian. Unfortunately, of course, archaeology very, very rarely preserves fabrics, wool, linen, perhaps even silk. So none of that has survived from the ancient Persian world. But what we do have are hundreds and hundreds of representations of dress in stone sculpture, in gold, and even here, as you can see, in miniature pieces as well. All of these images that you can see here were found in the northeast of the Persian Empire in modern Tajikistan. They're all part of the so-called Oxus treasure. Each one of them shows different forms of ancient Persian clothing. The ancient Persian elite wore two essential forms of dress. The first we can see at the back of this case, a silver figurine of a man wearing a long robe, girded at the waist, and holding in his hand a pomegranate flower. This is the so-called Persian court robe. In reality, it was a very, very baggy piece of fabric, probably made of wool, beautifully embroidered, and studded all over with hangings, with appliques made of gold and silver. The other kind of clothing we have in the Persian Empire is starkly different to that. It's made out of three essential pieces of garment. We have a long-sleeved tunic, which you can see very clearly in the flat golden plaque, which was discovered in the Oxus treasure. And that is worn very often with a long coat, which sits on the shoulders. And you can see in these tiny miniature figures that kind of coat. Also, the rider, a satrap or a king, in this beautiful miniature chariot is wearing this kind of cloak just by sitting on his shoulders. We know that this coat was called the gaunaka. It's an old Persian word which means a hairy thing. So we know that it was lined with wool or perhaps faced with fur, and it was a mark of great prestige for the Persians. It's the kind of garment that would be given by the king as a gift to important courtiers or even to diplomats, like visiting foreigners, such as Greeks, who came to see him at Persepolis or at Susa. This garment articulated very clearly the Persian world. It's not the kind of garment that any Greek would have worn. The Greeks only wore wraparound garments, like modern-day saris, long pieces of woolen cloth which were distributed around the torso and thrown over the shoulder. But the Persians wore cut and stitched clothing. Perhaps the most remarkable thing of all, and you can see it on the gold plaque very clearly, is that they're wearing trousers. These were the first peoples that the Greeks ever encountered to be wearing trousers, and the Greeks found it very disturbing, to say the least. Why did the Persians wear trousers? Well, it's because of their ancestry. The Persians originated in the steppes of Eurasia, and they were horse nomads. So horse riding was absolutely central to Persian life. Therefore, they utilized trousers so that they could be comfortable on horseback. It meant that they could travel long distances and long times comfortably on the back of horses with their legs concealed and, of course, their thighs safe from chafing. For the Persians, masculinity was emphasized through the clothed body of the horseman warrior. But for the Greeks, it was all about the naked body, the gymnasium, and the workout. No wonder these two civilizations never saw eye to eye.